American Language Course Placement Test, Form 50. Part 1, Listening. Directions for items 1 to 56. You will hear statements or questions on the tape. Select the best answer and mark your answer sheet A, B, C, or D. Do not write on the test booklet. 1. I will allow my son to go to town. What will I do? 2. Where do you take your dirty clothes? 3. Tom got on the wrong bus yesterday. Jim did too. 4. Jones thinks English is a difficult language. 5. Mr. Richards employs a lot of people. 6. The weatherman says it will freeze tonight. What does he mean? 7. Joe is at the store. He wants to go back to his room. It's necessary for him to walk 12 blocks. How far is it from the store to Joe's room? 8. John has lots of new ideas. What has he been doing? 9. Tom said, "This shirt costs $10.98. What was Tom talking about? 10. Which of these is a machine? 11. Jackson cooks all our meals for us. What does he do? 12. Jim mailed a letter to his wife yesterday after class. What did Jim do yesterday? 13. Rebecca wanted cash for her car when she sold it. What did she want? 14. 60 students attended church services last Sunday. How many were at the service? "15. This house has lots of storage space. What does the house have?" "16. John ate some dessert at noon. What did he eat?" "17. The nurse knew how tall he was. What did she know about him?" "18. If it rains, the students may not go to the drive-in movie." "19. The bank is opposite the post office." "20. That street is very straight." "21. The drugstore is near the shoe shop." "22. Hilda returned home at 15:25 hours. When did she return?" "23. The rock crashed through the window." "24. I see a big storm approaching." "25. The wind did not damage the wheat." "26. They kept their people in mind." "27. Mr. Smith has to go to the bank today." "28. This box is easy to lift because it is so light. "29. Will you get through with your homework soon?" "30. Aren't those two students alike?" "31. The book has many chapters. What is a chapter?" "32. Where did you put my pencil this morning?" "33. There was an abrupt change in the weather. What kind of change was it?" "34. He's going to take up medicine this year. What is he going to do?" "35. Mr. Jones tried the car out on the highway. What did he do?" "36. The meat was too rare." "37. The children cooked their own supper tonight. I didn't help them." "38. There were 25 students in all who made a trip to the zoo." "39. James is an efficient worker." "40. The cadet was not guilty of the charge." "41. Bob Moore wanted to inspect the new oxygen mask." 42. Mike spread out the maps. 43. The air is dense at sea level. 44. We had to stand up in the bus on the trip to town. 45. Mr. Long liked the cartoons in the evening newspaper. What were they? 46. Annette said she got a new filling yesterday. What did she get? 47. How did the hole get there? 48. We're having a thunder shower. What are we having? 49. Carol kept working on the problem until she solved it. 50. We took our vacation so long ago, I can't remember much about it. 51. The attack was repelled. 52. The temperature was around 70 degrees, and it was a foggy morning. 53. The student has gone back to his country for good. 54. John wants a berth on the train. What does he want? 55. Why did the welder use goggles? 56. When we flew over the ocean, There were clouds below us. Directions for items 57 to 66. You will hear conversations or persons giving information. Select the best answer and mark your answer sheet A, B, C, or D. 57.
Did you finish your assignment last night?
No, I didn't. I had a party last night.
Why didn't the student finish his assignment? (58)
Did John use the interstate highway?
Yes, he did.
What was John doing? (59)
Where have you been?
I went to see a game.
What did the man see? (60)
How are the patients?
They're doing very well, except for the man in room 12.
Where did this conversation most likely take place? (61)
What is the prime reason for coming here?
I don't know the prime reason.
What is it that the woman didn't know? (62)
Does bus number 45 go to the train station?
No, but I can give you a transfer.
All right, I'll take it.
What will the woman do? (63)
What's the matter?
I'm in a rush.
What do we know about the man? (64)
How did you find out about the news?
It was broadcast.
How did the man find out about the news? (65)
He collects rocks from all parts of the world.
That's nice, but do they have any value?
What does the man want to know? (66)
What happened to your coat?
It wore out.
What did the woman mean? This is the end of the listening part of the test.